you can recognize these beliefs because they are painful. And you can look at this, that lies are painful. If I believe some kind of lie, it hurts.
Yes.
Truth is kind and warm and loving, and it's nothing to worry or be afraid of. Truth is freedom. And the lie is something that comes into your head and goes, that doesn't feel right. Oh, don't like it. Hello, Sarah.
Hello again.
Great to be with you.
And you. So I've had an interesting time since our last meeting together. I started doing some exchanges with Stacey on the Liberation Unleashed forum. I'd been waiting for a facilitator when I saw your message, and she's been really great. Some of the exercises have been really helpful, and I've really started to see even more that there isn't a self, and yet I still persisted with the idea that there is one. So I attended your meeting, your group meeting, which is great. I highly recommend it for anyone.
Thank you.
Really wonderful. Yeah, wonderful free meeting, and it was Stacey who told me about it. So I should have checked the events section, but I didn't. So yeah, hopefully anyone who hears this will attend if they can and want to, because it's really great, a good opportunity. And I think I was talking to you for a good 20 minutes about how I really feel I have a self. And you were deciding it was a unicorn. I was saying, yes, I've got my unicorn here with me. So I've seen clearly through our work together and through my work with Stacey that there's no self through these different exercises we've done. And yet I still had this feeling of a self, this real feeling of a self, which I suddenly saw more clearly wasn't there. Just at one point when I was listening to discussion with Bernardo Kastrup, who's a philosopher, and he also doesn't think there's a self, and he was answering a question by someone who had said that they became aware that there wasn't a self through a crisis, and they really saw how things are labeled. Like, we see a tree, and what we see is not a tree because it doesn't include the roots, it doesn't include the mycorrhiza, it doesn't include the water that's come into it, gone out of it, the air, and so on. So and something clicked for me, because I had just been on a walk to see a tree, a rowan tree that I pass often, and I've sort of befriended in a way. This beautiful native tree here in the Isle of Harris that there's so many sheep that walk around freely, and so little saplings just get eaten by them. But this one had grown sort of out of the side of a bank of a river, and then its trunk has kind of twisted and grown up. So it sort of saved itself from the sheep. So such resilience. And something clicked, and I thought, yeah, I'm kind of like the tree or like the river. I don't have this fixed thing about me. The person had asked Bernardo, why is it that scientists don't see that? Why is it that they focus on materialism? And yet, spiritual people can kind of see this truth. How does that work when scientists are sort of often more intellectual? They're supposed to be more objective and so on. And Bernardo said, well, scientists these days really that they have an identity in their science. They have a kind of they have an attachment to their work and so on. Whereas I suppose spiritual people just, they let go and want to know the truth. And he said that the truth isn't so vulnerable. It's out there for everyone to see. And suddenly something really clicked. I was just running a bath and I was just like, wow, yes, it's something really clicked, which was incredible. What I've experienced since that, though, is a kind of instability in that, because there's a lot of emotions have been arising as part of this whole process,
Mhm.
and more have arisen since that, and it feels just very unstable at the moment. Like my whole self, my whole identity just feels quite unstable, but not, yeah, there's not a there's not a sense of freedom. It's kind of something still clinging on, and yet I nothing I've felt was important in the past really feels too important now. So I've kind of lost a sense of self, and yet don't feel like I've gained freedom. It's this in between stage. And Stacey sent me a link to a video of yours about falling, and it was very relevant to this, that there's a sort of period people can go through that feels quite unstable. It feels worse than having a self, and I imagine worse than having a no self. Otherwise, I'll go back to having a self. Get my unicorn back. So yeah, so it's for me anyway. It's a really strange, uncomfortable place, and I kind of still have to act in the world like I've got a self. I live with my husband, who very much has a self. So yeah, it kind of feels like I sometimes have to pretend I'm not really falling in order not to sort of upset him. And yeah, have to feel like I pretend with the postman and so on. So it's there's a way in which as well I don't feel like being around a lot of people, because our society's structured for people to have selves, isn't it? So and I imagine there's a point where you're at, where you happily go back into society and function a bit more. But this is a strange stage. I don't know if that makes sense, that I've said.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense, and thank you for sharing. Yeah, it is this disorientation. It's very much expected.
Okay.
Disorientation.
Yeah.
And flip-flopping. Like I see it, I don't see it, I see it, I don't see it.
Yes.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
But like once a bubble is pierced, let's say this, once the bubble is pierced, it can all go back together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's exploding in time. There needs to be time. Like imagine you've been living in this bubble of illusion of how the world is and what you are and so on. And then this idea comes in that maybe it's not like that. And then you take a look. How is it? And that's the piercing of the bubble once you see it.
Yeah.
But that hole gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until the whole thing collapses. It's not instantly.
Okay. I had assumed it would be instantly. I suppose we hear a lot about awakening from the stories of people who had sudden awakenings, like Eckhart Tolle and so on. It's just it feels like it should be this one thing where suddenly I don't see it and then bang, I do. And so it's really reassuring to hear you say that this is really normal, this flip-flopping. I see it, I don't see it, because I really
it's a
feel
process.
it's a process. Yeah, it's not certainly the way the material I've come across before accessing Liberation Unleashed. It is not sold in that way. It's sold as this kind of, or somehow maybe my mind created this idea that it's this wonderful kind of almost orgasmic experience that just bang, and then you're there in this kind of alternative reality. But maybe my mind created this, maybe it's what's really undersold, I think, is how painful the process can be, actually, how disturbing and painful it can be, this flip-flopping, the emotions that arise. I guess from what I think is happening with the emotions is that the bubbles burst, and then kind of deeply held emotions stored in my body are kind of starting to come up, because I'm noticing all sorts of things that I think were from when I was a baby and so on. So yeah, it can be a disturbing process, I guess. It's not this beautiful kind of spiritual experience. Certainly from my point of view, anyway.
Yeah, and it can be beautiful, but at some point, all these emotions, all the repressed feelings, everything starts rising up. It's like a cleanup operation on a massive scale. But it can be gentle, right. It can be drastic, it can be sudden, it can be over a long period of time. But it has to happen, this cleanup, either before, during, or after. It has to happen. And sometimes I compare this to a cosmic washing machine. Like, you go in a cosmic washing machine, and now you're going to get cleaned. So what it does, turns you, spins you, and then it's a long process. And eventually you get out clean out of it, cleaner, until the next cycle. So it's not like, it's not like this cleaning is done and that's it. The deeper stuff comes out when there is more space.
Makes a lot of sense. I'm getting kind of layers of emotion come up, and then there'll be days where I just feel great, feel really good, and I think, oh, this is wonderful. And then something will happen, and I'll go in, some emotion will come up, intense anxiety, or a deep kind of sadness, or even grief, and I think nobody's died, this is strange. Or anger has come up, a lot of anger has come up, and then there'll be a day of just joy and happiness, and then another one. So it's okay, so that's a normal part of the process that people go through.
Yes. And when you watch videos on YouTube, and there are many speakers now, and they share their experience, but you don't know what happened before or what happens when they finish recording.
Yes.
It's just like a postcard from a holiday. They don't make a video when they feel shitty. Yes.
There really is something that isn't being advertised about this awakening process, and that's that it's possible to feel shittier before, during, and as you say, from what I've started to research afterwards as well. And somehow all these YouTube videos, they contain so much around just how calm and serene that the teacher is, and the knowledge that they're portraying. And maybe they have days where it's a tough day as well.
And life challenges doesn't stop because you see that it's all happening by itself.
you just see that it's all happening by itself. That's the difference. Yeah. It's just
Okay,
my
so what I invite you now,
Yeah.
like to go in the heart and see what's going on there. Okay, so just take a few deeper breaths and focus here now. We are here, there's nowhere else to be, to go, to do. We're just sitting here and looking what's going on in the heart. And whatever is there is fine, it's okay. Do you feel your heart? Okay, let's try this. Say, hello, heart. I see you. I see you, my beautiful heart.
Hello.
I love you so much.
I love you so much.
And let's hold that heart in attention for a little bit. Breathing into it, settling into it, resting into it. And let's ask the heart directly this question and see what arises and tell me. And the question is, heart, what are you longing for? What is your deepest desire?
Freedom, I think. It's sort of, I saw a picture of kind of those open space and movement within that space, free movement. So I think there was a freedom.
Beautiful. Can you say to the heart, thank you so much? I agree. I agree. And ask it, are you ready for this openness, spaciousness, movement, freedom? Are you ready?
There's a mixture of sadness and fear. There's a sort of, as soon as I connected with the heart when we started, I felt a sadness, and the sadness around kind of losing the self I know, losing just interests in things that I was very passionate about before, like studying. I like to study, or I love to travel, and I still like the idea of it, but it's not an identity anymore. So there's a kind of sadness there around that loss, and then there's also a fear mixed in with that sadness when I asked if the heart was ready. So there's a way in which there is readiness, there really is, and then there's also this sadness, which I suppose is a bit of grief that just needs to come up and be released, and then this fear, which is more of a holding on, I think.
Okay, let's welcome this sadness. Feel into it. Tell the sadness, I see you. Here you are. You're welcome here. You are allowed and appreciated. And I honor you. Thank you for being my friend. And can you ask the sadness now? And what are you longing for? What do you want?
Just getting a sense of kind of cradling, that just wants to be loved and accepted, held.
Oh, say I agree. Mm-hmm. And let's hold it, rock it. Rock that sadness. Be with it. And how is that energy of sadness feeling now?
A bit more sort of free. Feels okay to be there, settled a bit more in a way. Still there, but sort of settled.
Okay, and let's invite it to its most comfortable state, most comfortable size, form, texture, whatever it wants. What would make it feel the most comfortable? It's completely valid, included, welcomed, allowed, and honored. It is part of human experience. And let's invite it to settle into its natural state, natural form.
Yeah, it's like it's sort of, it can be there and just dissipate in its own time without being pushed away.
Mm-hmm. And there is freedom in feeling sadness or being with sadness. It's freedom which allows it to be here, allows it to express itself and be noticed and honored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that feels right. That does.
Okay, and let's bring up the fear. The fear. Okay, just invite the fear to come closer. Like, what is this fear about?
As you said that, I felt the kind of contraction in my chest and it sort of goes up my neck a bit.
And tell the fear, I see you, I acknowledge you. You're welcome. Very welcome here. Thank you so much for showing up. Also, a very old friend that protects.
Yes, that alerts and protects. Coming up is this sort of fear of people, because I guess it's only people that have gone through this process and seen there's no self, so can tell me what it's like on the other side. And yet I think there was a lot of early life trauma with people. People let me down, I think, when I was vulnerable as a young baby and child. So there's a kind of somehow fear of this process, because I think, a relatively strong sense of self was created that protected me in a way from people, from it kind of it that there was a sort of sense of security. I can see now as it's dropping away, a sense of security in having a kind of identity. There's this sort of a fear of what is happening, and somehow fear of people. So
fear of people. Yeah. Okay, let's look. Where are these people right now? Right now, right this moment. How do you experience these people in this moment? What is that?
I guess it's kind of the idea of a lot of separate selves that aren't me. And I've really, it's been quite clear at certain points that I don't have a separate self. So it makes sense.
How can somebody else have a separate self? Exactly. There is no separate self.
Makes sense. It's really just makes so much sense that life is just a flow, and I'm part of life. And sometimes I really see it more than other times. But yeah, it's got to be that way for everybody, not just for me.
Right.
So there's a sort of strange fear of losing this thing that I see I never had, and also of this thing in other people that many people out there think they've got, but haven't necessarily. So it's almost like a fear of unicorns, isn't it? I'm
look at this.
My unicorn and fearing all the other unicorns.
Okay, look at this. So here's like a person. See, it's a separate person. Doing its thing. Here's another person, and they are interacting. And then there is a third person, fourth, fifth. Yeah, and they look separate. Look, these fingers or these people are separate. What are they separate from? What is that moves them? They all connected.
They're not separate from life. They can't be.
No. It's the life that moves us, this and that and that and that.
Just
the life, the aliveness that you know in your beingness. There's aliveness there. That life force. So it seems like there's one people here, another people there, another person's there. But it's this one aliveness showing up as everything. It's everyone.
Yeah.
So this person can have an idea, I'm a separate self. That person doesn't have that idea. It's still its life itself. Still aliveness that runs them, or expresses as them. So this idea of people is really just in the head.
Yes. Yeah. There's a fear of the loss of myself that somehow I felt protected me from people, and fear of their selves, and yet none of that existed in the first place. Life was just happening, and my experiences as a baby and as a child were just happening. And with those, nobody was consciously trying to hurt me. I think they were just very unconscious. It was just around unconscious people.
Okay, let's bring attention back to the sensation of fear. Is it still there? See, it's fear.
No, it's turned into the sadness a bit more now. Just sort of more.
Okay. Okay, let's feel that sadness a bit more. Fully allowing, simply watching, feeling, giving it full attention. And can you ask this question and see what arises? Say, show me, what were you before you took the form of sadness?
There's a kind of peace around it. The answer comes in images rather than a sort of a nice little sentence or two. So I have to translate them, but there's a feeling of peace around it. There's a sort of some idea of a kind of a far awayness, but a link to a here-ness. Like what it was before was a sort of a potential, I think, a kind of a vibration, peace, energy, I suppose, in a different form ultimately.
Okay, and can you ask this energy of sadness, energy called sadness, that is currently here, would it like to go back to being this peace, potential, neutral? Would it like that?
I think so. Yes. When the time's right.
We'll say I give you full permission. If you want to go back to being this peace, just energy, you're welcome. Feel free. Feel free to go back to your previous state, natural state. And see how it responds to that invitation.
Yeah, there's a movement away, and what's left underneath is the fear.
Fear.
Again, which I see much more clearly now.
Okay. And can you take a peek and look behind that fear? What is there that needs that fear to protect it? What is there?
I think nothing now. I think it's a sort of a habitual fear from the past. There was at first the answer came that, well, the body needs the fear to protect it, but my body now doesn't need fear to protect it. It's quite safe. So it's a sort of habitual fear that's
And does it still need to be here? Does it still want to be here in the sphere? Can you check with it? Let's say, since you're protecting nothing, the body is safe, I'm safe here. Do you still want to be here?
It doesn't want to be doing its job. It's kind of like the sadness it feels. It needs a bit of cradling, a bit of love.
Okay, let's give it that and say thank you so much for doing your job. Thank you so much for care and love. Thank you. And how is fear responding to that?
Kind of settling. It will go in its own time, but it's sort of settling, and there's more of a peace around it.
Nice. So you can see the peace that is here, and then all these energetic expressions like fear or sadness that arise in that peace.
Yeah.
And then it can be okay. They can arise, they can stay, they can go when they're ready. But they can be peace with that.
Yeah. Just
including that.
Just life, part of life flowing. I really, really feel connected to the concept of life just being a flow like a river. I'm just a river. There's, the river is never the same river. We see a river, but every time we see it, it's a different river because the water's always moving. Some of the stones are moving. The trees are growing on the bank. The air is changing. And I guess these emotions are, they feel a bit more like little rocks that stay for a while and then they flow down the river. Yeah.
Look how language has an effect on how we see everything, because it says river and it's a thing, it's an object.
Yeah.
It's a static, like a postcard. You look at the postcard, it's not moving, but the word river doesn't express that movement.
Yes, it really does.
So we take it, a river, a stone, a tree, a human, a person. But it's a process. It's a free flow. Free flow.
Yeah.
In other words, a spontaneous rising, spontaneous free flow. Like right here, right now, these energies are spontaneously flowing, and they are flowing freely already.
Yeah. Language does make us see things in a certain way. I've really seen from my friend the rowan tree that he changes, and with the seasons, he'd had buds and now they're leaves, and there'll be berries, and then they die off, and then
so if you take a picture now of the tree, and then you come back in winter with that picture and say, no, that's not the tree.
Exactly.
It has to look like this.
Yeah.
Now it looks like that. This is not the tree.
And yes, years ago it was so much smaller, and maybe more years it will be bigger, or it will die, or yeah. Nature doesn't hold on in the way that the separate self holds on. Flows. Yeah.
Okay, and now let's go back into the heart. Just feel into the heart and see, is it ready for freedom? Expansion, openness, freedom. Is it ready?
There's a readiness, and there's a little bit of fear that needs, I think it just needs time just to go in its own time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's when you were saying the words expansion and freedom, there was a sense for me of joy and sunshine, and such a much bigger space than was taken up by the separate little self.
Okay, but this freedom doesn't look like joy. It looks like peace. There can be joy, there can be sadness, there can be anger, there can be grief. But the freedom is peace with whatever is arising.
Peace with
freedom to feel, freedom to experience, freedom to express, freedom to. It's not freedom from sadness or grief. It's freedom to feel it fully, openly, completely.
I think there's some joy for me underneath the fear that is trapped underneath the fear. So, but yes, the freedom, not freedom for things to come and go, without being kind of attached to them so much. Yes.
And let's just check with the heart. If we could have this freedom right now, would you go for it? Right now.
The bigger the yes, the more the fear arises. That's quite interesting.
And what the fear is saying, what is it afraid of? Afraid of freedom? In which way?
Doesn't make sense to be afraid of freedom. It's already there.
Well, if you imagine like sitting in a prison cell for all your life, you don't know what's out there. And the door is open.
Yeah.
But in the cell, you feel safe because you know the walls, you know every mark on the wall. And the door is open. You don't know what's there.
Yeah. Safer
so it can be a fear of unknown.
Yes, I think that's basically it. Absolutely. Yeah. And a fear of a lack of control. Kind of, yeah.
Okay, so you can choose you can choose to stay in the cell or walk out from the cell out into the world and see what's there. Of course, there may be fear and excitement as well, and all these mixed feelings, but here we go, this cell is open. Do you choose to stay for now or walk out? Like, what's your feeling towards this suggestion? Either is fine. It's just you want to see what's going on in you.
No, I want to walk out.
Okay, one more question. What is scarier? To stay in the cell for the rest of your life or to go out and see what's there?
That's what I was asking. It was like, do I want this life of just being in a cell, or would it be, whatever's out there, would I rather see it? I want to be in a cell forever. It's safe, but it's so limited.
Okay, just close your eyes. Imagine you in that cell. Imagine the door is open. You don't know what's behind the door. And take a peek. Just stand in the door and have a look. Have a look both ways, outside and into the cell. See what's going on in you.
It's so much lighter on the outside. It sort of feels like in the cell there was darkness, and so my eyes were adjusted to the darkness, and so going outside, it feels quite bright, like your background, and in a sense there's a sort of I was imagining walking, but kind of not having it, because my eyes hadn't adjusted. There was a sense in which I had to kind of trust the whole process, trust something. Yeah, which is how life is, I suppose. Yeah. There's not a. There's something. Yeah, it's not possible to control it. There's a way in which it was almost like I was imagining my feet were just walking. I was just walking, and it was kind of there was movement, but without full control somehow.
Yeah.
It's like a sort of period of my eyes adjusting to that.
Great.
That light. Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that the choice was to step out and see that light and see what's out there.
Yeah.
And how is the heart feeling now? Can you check with the heart? How is the heart feeling now?
There's a nurturing of any emotions that is still remaining in it, and kind of a peace around those emotions. So they're still there, but there's a sort of peace around. and a kind of knowing that they won't necessarily just suddenly disappear. They need their time. Need their time, and there's a sort of a period of adjustment.
Yes, and healing. A lot of
healing, which is this washing machine we were talking about earlier in a way as well.
That's a little bit different. That's cleaning. Cleaning is like it's looking at all your, I'm sorry, but bullshit beliefs that are still in the system, like the beliefs, how you see yourself, others, in the world, all these beliefs. That's cleaning. They drop away.
Cleaning, okay. And the emotions that arise, is that part of that? The kind of
yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And by what I mean by healings, old wounds, old hurts, resentments, shames, guilt, all this stuff. That needs time to heal.
Yes, that makes
it's like the lies are hurting, and the pain of lies needs to heal.
Okay, that makes sense. So somehow the washing machine brings some of this stuff up that then needs to be healed. That makes sense.
Yes.
That feels there's a process for me to go through now.
Yeah. But the step out of the door was already made.
Yes.
No way back.
Yeah, true. It doesn't feel like I can go back. Like pretending that I think Father Christmas exists. It can't happen.
Okay, but when you are around children that don't know, you may continue pretending that it's real.
Yeah, you have to sort of function in some ways.
So when you go to meet your mom, you put the identity of a daughter on, and you interact like as if you are a daughter. When you speak to your husband, you have your identity on as a wife. When you speak to your friend, you have identity on as like this and like that. So it helps to function in the world. There is nothing wrong with that. But you know that you're not it. It's not what you are. It's just like putting a t-shirt on. You don't go out naked in the world.
Yes. Yeah, true. We naturally don't wear t-shirts, but in our society we have to. That makes a lot of sense. That really does.
But if I think if my t-shirt says Ilona, and then I become this t-shirt or this role or this identity, then of course you don't want to lose it.
Yes.
It's what I am.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. It really does. It's like I've had the idea for so many years that the t-shirt was my skin. I thought it was part of my skin, and then as it's been coming off, I've been feeling sad, but also scared, I suppose, because it feels like my own skin's coming off. But it's just a t-shirt, and that t-shirt is useful for functioning in the world. But the knowing that it's a t-shirt is the important thing. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so I would say let's meet one more time.
Okay. See how that goes.
Because I don't feel that I want to leave you right here just yet. It's like, it's just step out and like, oh, okay, I'm gone.
It really feels like it's just the beginning in a sense. it does. But yeah, it's a vulnerable place to be. I think you're sensing that. It is just.
And I tell you, I meet with some people for maybe even 2 years.
Okay.
Not because they don't see it, but because there is stuff coming up, and they like to explore together. As I say, the stuff continues coming up.
That makes sense.
So it's not like, you can you see it and this is the end. No, it's the beginning.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of unraveling and creating. When everything comes back to their natural state, everything that is contracted wants to come back to its natural state.
Yeah.
And it takes time and also effort and ability to focus. That's very important, this ability to focus and hold attention on what is arising. Like, when you feel sadness, just stay with that sadness as long as it needs time and attention to open up and feel okay.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I really thought it would be the end, but it's just the beginning. I see so clearly now. It's just the very beginning.
It is both. It is both. Because if you imagine this prison cell, it's the end of that.
Yeah.
And that seeing through the illusion of crossing the gate, whatever language, is just crossing that line where you are no longer in the cell. You're in the open. So there is an exploration of what is here. So that crossing maybe, there was a date when I saw that first time. That's it. The rest is exploration continues. Exploration continuing till this body is functioning alive.
Yeah. That makes sense. That really makes sense. It does. Yeah. Thank you. So we'll meet another time.
Let's meet another time. Let this settle and notice that fear when it arises and look behind it. Just know that trick. Look behind it. What is there? If you see that there is nothing there, or empty, there's no one there to protect, then it naturally come down.
Okay, I will do that. Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're so very welcome. Great to be with you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please press like, comment, subscribe, all of that. I really appreciate this, as this helps the channel to grow and reach more people. And if you need some help, you can come to Liberation Unleashed Forum and request a guide like Sarah did. And if you like my help, you can send me an email through my website, which is ilona@ciunaite.com, and we can arrange some time to explore together. Bye for now. Thank you for watching. Till next time.